So welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Greg.
And today is our January monthly debrief. You might be watching this in March. Indeed, it's very likely that you are.
Which is a crying shame.
Yes, it's extremely late in the month, or in the year. I realize that. It's been kind of a crazy time.
Yeah. I will say this. It's been nice that people have reached out like, are you guys okay? We haven't seen a monthly debrief.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, we're good. We just have things going on.
Just about.
Yeah.
Yeah, February was kind of crazy, and that's when we filmed the January debrief.
Yeah.
And it just it
got worse.
Got pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And so we're at the end of February recording the month of January. So next week we'll be making another one.
Please forgive us.
So anyway, January, we played a few war games. Not as many as I had hoped, but still a good chunk of war games.
Yeah. Well, but before we get into that, I think we need to explain the topic that we've chosen because it's
yes.
So literally, we're talking about Rodger McGowan.
Yes.
From RBM Studio and all of that, because he passed. And he passed near the end of February. I think it was the 21st or 20th or something like that.
I think it was last week.
So we're literally doing something in the January debrief about something that didn't happen until the end of February. So when you see that title, I don't want that to be, everybody's like, oh, what's this weird?
No, it just happens to be that we're recording this post when that tragedy, unfortunately.
Yes.
So, yes, that's a good clarification.
Yeah, I just know that people are going to see the title and be like, what? Did I get the wrong month?
Don't use this as a historical reference for a timeline. That's definitely what I would say.
So anyway, that's my piece. I said it.
Also, this video, I have remembered, is sponsored by Noble Knight Games.
How can we forget that? They're amazing.
I know, but sometimes I get excited and get ahead of myself and get talking, and it's hard to shut me up.
It is very easy to do that.
So a bit more from them later on with some kind of official ads, but we picked up a few games from them and a few bits and pieces that we're browsing their website. But they're a big sponsor of this channel. Very grateful for their support.
Yes, very grateful. Yeah, I got this month from them.
Is that brand new?
No, this is the second volume in this Bite series, Battles in the East series.
Okay.
The other one out, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like red. This was one they had, and I'm like, I want to get it, right? So, Battles in the East from Decision Games. Uman Pocket and Guderian's Final Blitzkrieg.
Yeah, I'm constantly on their website looking at things. I know I shouldn't.
Which is, no, we should.
I mean, I've got space for a nice new big shelf to put stuff on.
Why don't we just buy a nice new big shelf and kind of clean this area up?
I think that's probably what I'm going to do.
Yeah, just do it.
I was thinking about it the other day, and I thought,
yeah, because you could move all that over. You could put that nice big shelf here.
And I can get rid of some of this stuff. Like, this is John's, and I can tidy up.
Yeah.
That way I can buy more stuff.
Buy more games
from Noble Knight Games.
I would love to have another shelf. I just don't know where I would.
Because I think I can fit another one of these in without having to move the picture.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Because you got one dog going east and one dog going west.
One dog's going one way, the other dog's going the other way. It reminds me of someone that we know.
Yeah. If you don't know what we're talking about, think about it. You'll get it.
Yeah, go watch Goodfellas.
Yeah, Goodfellas.
And I have that picture up on my wall of the painting that
it's always
Joe Pesci's mother does.
Always a joy to watch, to see that, and when I come down here.
Anyway, let's talk about what we did play in January.
The few games that we played in January.
Yes, it has been a cold and frigid winter so far, fortunately. But speaking of which, we played Battles of Napoleon, Volume 1, Eylau 1807 from Sound of Drums.
This game needs a chef's kiss. It was very, very, very good.
Yes. Now, there is a full review of this on the channel, so I do think go watch that because this has a 1.5 rule set that you need.
And you need to download that because it's got some
And it has the 1.5 play aids that you also need.
Yeah.
Now, if you have both of those things, this is an extremely good game.
It's extremely good.
Like,
it's beautiful, very interesting and unique, and just a really good game.
Without being crazy complex.
Right.
Like
you're not going to use base 6 math.
No.
Right, like La Bataille or other big Napoleonic games.
It toes this really slick line of, for a big war game like this, having a really good rule book that's not very long, not very complex, not a ton of overhead, while still retaining enough tactical crunch for it to consistently be interesting. Really smart game.
Well, and the way the activation works and your decisions about who is just very well done. It's a cube draw, not a chit draw, but a cube draw. It's just really good.
Also, they have the, well, I don't know if it's going
It's
still.
coming soonish.
Soonish. They're doing Quatre Bras, I think that's what it is.
Yes.
I think so. So Volume 2, they're already doing it, and as part of that crowdfunding, they are doing, I think it's an upgrade kit for this, which will fix this. And the other thing that I found out is that in Quatre Bras, in all of the scenarios, they're including the army fatigue mechanics, which were not in the one that we did.
Right.
But the army fatigue mechanics are, again, really simple, but really slick, and will put an extra layer of interest and pressure into the game, and they're including that at all game scenario levels, which I think is also a really positive thing as well.
So the other thing I want to say about this is from Sound of Drums.
Yes.
We had a little bit of an inauspicious start with Sound of Drums. We tried to play a prototype copy of their Mediterranean Civ building game, and it just didn't go well.
What it's called.
Right? We didn't get all the parts. We didn't get the right rules. It was just kind of a cluster. Partly them to blame, partly us to blame, and we kind of gave up on them, frankly, at that point.
Yeah, that was a tough start.
But I'm glad that we've now gotten back on that train, because they do have some really good games coming out. This is one of them. Another one we played in January, I almost said this month. And interestingly, we didn't play this in its physical form in January.
Yeah, we played this in December, and then we played it again digitally with the designer in January.
So 1793, Patriots and Traitors, and this is year 2. And they are working, I think, on some additional part of the game, or
like
the
a
history.
sequel type expansion.
But I really like this game. The rules weren't great. And I've had more people say, well, what didn't they understand about the rules? Man, when you sat down and read the rules, it just wasn't clear what was going on.
Okay, so there's also...
I hate to say that over and over and over again.
There's a full review of this game also on the channel, which we did after both of our plays, one unsuccessful, one successful. And if you read the comments of that, it is almost a 50-50 split between this is a great game and this is an atrocious rulebook.
Yeah.
So I don't care if it's one thing or the other. The fact that it's so divisive, to me, is indicative that it's not good. Like, it's not a well-written rule book.
If it was clear, you wouldn't have the two camps.
Yes.
Everybody would be on board saying, yeah, the rules were great.
A good rule book can have, like, it can be a bad game, but a good rule book.
Yeah.
and it's the rule book gets in the way of the game, unfortunately.
I think, interestingly, while we're split on this one a little bit, I think split internally for each of us, but also split. I liked it, I think, more than you did.
The game's fine if you can get to the game. If you can get it. And that's a tough journey.
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of unique and interesting things here. It's kind of cool, but it's also beautiful.
Yes.
But we played this. We played both these from Sound of Drums, and I think they've got a lot of great stuff coming up.
And they're a new company, right? So they are working out their kinks, and I think that with how good this is and the success of this, but with a few production issues, the next volume and the fixing of this is really going to take them that leap forward to where we've like got consistent and good, especially war game content coming from there.
Well, and they've got another series that they're working on with Carl Paradis. I think it's called Battle Commander Napoleon. The first volume kickstarted like a year ago, and it should be releasing, my guess is sometime this year.
And Carl's a very well-established, well-rounded, and well-respected designer. So again, that shouldn't be an issue there.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that they're able to kind of really build themselves into like a prestige war game company as well.
So the other one that we put, before we go on to the big ones, we played Hispania a couple of times. We did a full video review on that one as well. I played it a couple of times solo at home.
How was it solo?
It's the same experience. It's just we're not talking together, right? I don't have someone to bounce ideas off or discuss strategy.
What's the best option?
It works the same. I still, from time to time, get confused. And I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but there's times I'm like, okay, we're doing a siege. I have to do... No! You just worry about the shield value, right?
But I'm getting a versus a battle,
and I find myself getting confused, and I shouldn't because I'm not sure it's that overly difficult.
No, I know what you're saying though.
I think the rule book on that one is very good with good examples. It's just there's some nuanced difference between battles when you're attacking an army or they're attacking you, and a siege, and you just got to get them straight. So,
yes. Yeah, it's easy to kind of get excited and get into it and get ahead of yourself, and you're like, oh, I was resolving this wrong. Even though it's a very similar situation.
It's a very interesting, little, unique, cooperative game.
I really like that one. I really liked Tetrarchia because they're these little mini co-op games that like have a good historical theme and are just a fun little mini pandemic thing with a historical theme on them. They're really enjoyable. I just think that's a fun change of pace.
So we did a video on that, but I also did some written content on it. So if you want to check that out, check out the blog. So let's get into the bigger stuff. We did.
So the other one...
We actually, now that we're going back, we did... January was not bad.
Don't ask about February.
Yeah.
We played Total War Rome, the board game.
Man, I was really wanting this to be amazing.
I've been looking forward to this game
for years.
For quite literally years.
Like 3 or 4 years.
Almost. Not quite. Almost half a decade.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying to think about.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this game is... not good.
It just doesn't live up to the hype. It doesn't live up to what I thought it could be. I think if someone could kind of do some variance or some tweaking with things, I think it could be really good. It's an interesting Ameritrashy style of game. It's just a little clunky, I feel like.
And there was all sorts of, I don't want to use the term apologists, but people who are like, they've got new rule sets online, they've done a lot of fixes and things, trying to make this work, and I'm like, that's great. It's really great.
But when you pay, what was this, like a $250 game?
God, I can't remember, but it was not cheap.
Why can't we get the rules right in the base?
Especially after 3 or 4 years of development.
I just don't know that I have a soft spot in my heart for publishers that can't do that.
And I also...
It bothers me.
It bothers me with this particular title where it's like, you might have fixed the rules, but unless you change the combat system, it's a fundamental flaw in the game for me.
Well, and if I will say this, a couple of people pointed out that we were doing some things wrong with the battle mechanic.
Yes.
And you and I had that conversation, and I thought your comment to me was terribly astute. I wish I could get that from the rule book.
It's impossible to glean what we were doing, and so we were house ruling things kind of as they were, and we house ruled them in different ways throughout the game. I know we did that.
And I've seen that a lot commented online as well. We had to house rule this or decide this is just the way you do it because the rules weren't totally clear.
But we were making house rules, and then like later on, the house rules weren't intuitive, and we were like, oh, that doesn't make sense, or it does make sense, or it shouldn't do that. So we were trying to fix it as we went along, and it's like, I don't care if you have a really precise and accurate combat system. The combat system doesn't fit with the rest of the game.
No.
It drags it down, it's an anchor in a way that is unfulfilling.
And they have an entire extra box that adds more tactical depth. Which maybe that would improve it. I don't know. It's just going to lengthen the game.
Yeah, so
that's what it's going to do.
It doesn't do that. That doesn't help. For me, this needs a really short, really simple dice chucking mechanic.
Based on what it is.
You've got the cards, lay them out in a couple lines. These guys support each other, roll the dice, here it is, and it's done. Instead, it's a... Yeah.
I think also we were split on this. I think I enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed what we were doing. There's just so much that was wrong.
I liked everything but the combat.
Well, yeah, agreed. I thought the other parts of the game were pretty unique and interesting. The agents, moving those around, doing mayhem. I just thought the battle was overdone, not intuitive, it just didn't work.
It was both overdone and undercooked.
Yeah, I
don't know how you've done that.
I
do know how you've done that. It's because it went through years of development hell, and it used to be one thing, and it was trying to be another, and they stopped in between.
Don't you think that at one point somebody was like, well, I liked this part of the combat mechanic, and they brought that back, added it in, and it just didn't fit together and kind of wonked it out.
And you have to think, this also originally started with a company called PSC Games, and it was supposed to be like, this was also a campaign frame for large... large-scale Ancients miniatures. So you'd play all this stuff, and you had the option of, when it came to doing a battle, you would have your painted miniatures, and you would play a miniatures game, and that's who survived. Like, I think that was kind of one of the original ideas of it, and it's just, it was frustrating because Total War deserves a much better game than this. It really does.
And when you call the game Total War, that should be what it's really good at. The combat mechanic should be what makes it shine. Unfortunately, what we thought made it shine was the politicking,
the campaign
and the subterfuge, which was awesome.
And it's done really, and that's done really well. And that's what was frustrating.
Well, and the game's beautiful. I mean, that is a well-produced game in every respect, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
But I just wish it was
very
something.
frustrating.
We're going to give it to a friend who is infamous for his changes to rules, house ruling, extra. I hope he can make something.
This is the time where we want him to do
Yes,
it.
we'll see if he does it. I bet Mike pulls an Alexander and just says, nope, not doing it.
No, oh God,
He'll do it.
He'll
He
never
won't be
back
able to
down
help
from
himself.
a challenge.
All right.
It might be a totally different game afterwards. I'm
Yeah.
just fix the combat system. Just fix.
That's
the
all you
combat
got to do.
system.
Everything else is good.
I don't need written orders.
No,
I don't need
Just
a
fix
different
the combat.
economy. Fix the combat, and I think you might have a game there. But it's
Anyway,
that was
I'm glad
tough.
we
That was
played
tough.
it.
Yeah.
I think it was really disappointing.
Extremely disappointing.
And that's a tragedy.
Yeah.
We also played a couple of smaller games. This one, now, remember I shared this in the video review. This used to be called The Soft Underbelly. Starts with a C. What are you going to say? Colon. 1943 to 1945. On the Kickstarter, which I backed. $30 game.
Yep.
For some reason, later on when they started fulfilling it, it was 1943 to 1945. And I'm like,
And for reference, they don't have a hyphen. It's just 1943, 1945.
So I don't know what happened, but this game, there's nothing to laugh about. It is a fantastic little abstract area movement combat game. It's very good.
This is really good.
I wrote a first impression post on it because I couldn't help myself just talking about, man, I really enjoyed this part. I really enjoyed this part. There was not a lot that I did not enjoy about this game.
Yeah, I had a really good time playing this. This is one of those games where it's like, this is a big game in a small box.
100%.
You know, what you're getting out of it is a game that, 10 years ago would have sold for 50, 60 bucks in a big box, right? But they've reduced it in size, and you've got these little pieces, and it just works really, really well.
And we have a video, I think the video actually posts, if I believe, like tomorrow.
Yeah,
We're shooting this.
You may have seen it, or it's coming like really, really soon.
But the thing I very much enjoy about it is your decisions about how you use your troops. Because each side's going to get a certain number of reinforcements throughout the, 8 or 10 turns of the game. Yeah. The Allies kind of stay pretty strong. The Axis
kind of drops
gets down to, I think the last year you have nothing.
Yeah.
And the game is a lot about 2 cubes you can turn into a tank unit. 2 cubes you can turn into an air unit or even an airborne troop. I very much enjoy that concept of trying to manage what I'm doing, not putting myself in a corner, but also improving what I'm doing because it's a combined arms game.
Yeah.
And you're going to hit on 4, 5, and 6, I think, when you have infantry, tank, armor, and an air unit. So you want to do that as much as you can.
Yeah, right. But if you convert all of your cubes into special units, you have less cubes, and your cubes they're body bags, they're hit points. And so if you only got one of those and one each of the other special units, that's not maybe as strong as having 4 cubes and 1 tank. And so you're making these, like, there's that economic element to it.
Yeah.
In this small game.
Yeah.
And for a game this small that only has probably 20 spaces on the board,
right,
it's very open. Yep. There's a lot of ways that you can prosecute this war and do your naval landings.
Yeah.
And now you're trying to take the whole continent and go north, but how you go about doing that and where geographically you do that, totally up to you.
Yep.
And I was surprised in a good way at how open it was, and it's not just here's the obvious one, you got to do that.
Yeah.
You can kind of go anywhere.
But designed by Sergio Schiavi, who is the owner and proprietor of Dissimula Edizioni, which is an Italian company. We've played multiple of their games and we love them, but this is really good.
Yeah, this is the one that's one to check out. Really, really liked it.
We also, while we didn't play this together,
I played it separately and you played it separately
with our father-in-law John. He bought the game. You played it I think you played once or twice with him.
Yes.
And I played twice with him. Very much enjoyed it. So this is Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle Earth. It's based on the 7 Wonders system that was then boiled down into the 7 Wonders Duel. So kind of a historical Euro-style game, but now they've slapped Lord of the Rings theme on it and added some new elements.
And by slapping the theme on, I think they did
integrated.
A little bit more than just slap on. Like, sure, it's a Euro, and so the theme is what it is. But I think they did more than just change the artwork, right?
It works really well. Very much enjoyed this. I would play it today with you because it plays like in 30 minutes. This is not a long game.
No, and it's really slick. It's got more than just one way to win.
Yep.
And I felt like Seven Wonders and Seven Wonders Duel have one. They have one path to victory that's the strongest. And really in this one, there's kind of 3 or 4, and each of them are viable for a good amount of time before you might tilt one way.
Yeah.
And also like the components are real slick with that ring track that they've got on these clear plexi slide rule thing. It's a really neat
good little game. I very much enjoyed this. I enjoyed it so much that I went on Amazon and bought my own copy. And
how much was it?
I think it was $30.
Yeah, and
with shipping it was like 36.
And that's what,
or tax or something.
That's a really good price for this game.
100%.
That would have been a good price for this game 10 years ago too.
But thank you, John, for introducing us to this, and I think we both enjoyed it equally.
Really, really fun game.
The only other nope, that's it. That's all the games that we played.
Now we had all the kind of classic online games, like Rally the Troops, playing Andean Abyss, Time of Crisis, Washington's War, Wilderness War.
1989 is a new one.
Yeah, so recently they added 1989 Dawn of Freedom, so I'm in a few games of that. A couple of those, like, I had to restart, because I was timing out because it's been insanely busy.
You actually have timed out of a lot of games that I've been involved with. I'm like, come on, Alexander.
Yeah, and that's not normally the case, but I've been both very busy and not well.
Yeah.
So but getting back to this.
Oh, it's great.
After we played it for the first time a few years ago, it's wonderful. It's enjoyable. It's that Twilight Struggle style game, but with the extras built into it for resolving the support.
It's got that extra layer of the mini game with the cards that you're battling every time you're like scoring a region.
That means the games of this take a little bit longer.
They take much longer,
but it's.
I like it. I just can't. I'm never doing well at it.
Yes. No, I agree.
It's crazy.
I might have 10 cards. I'll lose that because I agree. I will not have the one that I need.
Yep.
Or I've got 3 cards and I get rocked, and you're like.
Yeah.
I do not win those.
But we talked about this when we reviewed it a couple of years ago. I actually really feel like this is, in some ways, better than Twilight Struggle. I don't think it will not eclipse it because Twilight Struggle is like literally classic.
Yes.
But I very much enjoy what this one's trying to do, the additional theme, the additional focus on even the concept of what the spaces are, the worker spaces or the college spaces or the church, those all play off of events and other things, and it's just fun.
Well, and I feel like I think about this game and how this is what inspired things like Europe in Turmoil.
Sure.
That was a really good game that uses
some of the same stuff.
Same, like the iconography part of it and the way that the crises are resolved. That stuff was really, really fun that I liked from this. And so I think it's Twilight Struggle with more stuff.
Yeah.
And the more stuff is fun and interesting, but it does come at a cost of a little bit of extra time and rules overhead.
So they say...
That's the scale. They actually don't have the time on it.
Yeah, they don't have the time on it. I feel like this is like a 3 to 4 hour game, whereas Twilight Struggle, I think, is a solid 2 to 2.5 hours you can get it done.
And usually that game is over in the mid game.
Sure.
It very rarely goes to the late game. And
I got crushed in this one the other day. Some guy he scored every region every time, and I drew no region scoring cards. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I got into one, and then like just the first hand, he was like hammering away, and then he scored, and it was like I think he had to raise the stakes, and he rolled really well.
Oh my
gosh. And he got like 10 VPs.
Yeah, you can totally dominate someone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's over. Yeah. And then we're playing each other. I think we're like in turn 3, and I feel like we have been blindfolded. Our right hands have been tied behind our back, and then you've cut off our left hand, and it's like we're fumbling around doing everything and doing nothing at the same time.
And I'm in a game where I'm like, on the board, I'm like dominating this guy, and I raised the stakes, and I won this thing, and I rolled and got no points.
Yeah,
I was like, you.
It all
Or
boils
got
down
one
to
victory
it.
point, and I was
Sometimes
like,
it boils down to that die roll, and but that raising the stakes, you have to be sure you've got the cards to back it up.
And I'll have 10
you can
cards,
screw
and I'm still
yourself.
like, I don't think I'm going to do it. I don't think I'm going to do it.
I did it one time on that guy that crushed me, and he just like dominated. I'm like, oh, never doing that again.
But it's really enjoyable. That's
it's
on
awesome.
Rally the Troops.
Yeah.
I know there's more games coming for that platform that I'm very excited for.
Oh, do you know of-
I don't know what they are, but
Okay.
I know one of our patrons made a game for it, and it's not that. And
Okay.
it's not one that's out yet, and so it's coming very soon. But I
Okay.
don't know what it is, but I know that there's something, and I'm very excited.
Oh, yeah.
Also, Bayonets and Tomahawks. This is in a beta version on Board Game Arena. So I'm in 2 games of this currently. And again, kind of like 1989, it's fun to just go and revisit this game we played a few years ago that was really unique. Very unique.
Such a good game.
Nothing quite like this.
Yeah.
I think I remember the review that we did. And the one thing that I would say about this game is it feels like it was designed in a vacuum. He doesn't take mechanics from anywhere else, pretty much. There's like one part that feels slightly familiar, where with the way that the cards activate is a little bit like the Birth of America series.
Right.
But how you draw those and how you use them totally different.
Yep.
And this is a French and Indian war game, so it's got a lot of unique elements to it and kind of shackles on to make it that. And so you have to do you spend all this time doing one thing that you'll never do again in the game because it's like building this one road. And it's like, okay, build a road.
Yeah.
So it's
one of my favorite parts
really
about this game, the way that they do it is you can literally dismantle one of your boats and add a cannon. Is it to like a field army or is it like Louis? I don't remember.
I think it's in Louisburg, yeah.
But I'm just like, that's so fun. I mean, you have to sacrifice a ship that's going to ultimately hurt you in the end just to get an extra can. I just thought that was very well done.
Yeah, it's great. It's really interesting, and it's fun to be getting back into games. And that's why I really appreciate things like BGA and RTT is they allow me to play games that we otherwise wouldn't have time to get back to. I'm also, I'm in a few games of Unconditional Surrender. Those are going...
I've done Space I've done Space Empires on that. So pretty good.
Oh, and I'm playing Memoir 44. I'm in a couple games of that. That's always fun.
Got it.
I think that's all the games that we played in January.
I think so.
Though.
Yep.
So looking forward to February.
Yes.
Which I realize is over.
Yeah.
But for the charade of this video, in February we're going to play
We've already played
85, Afghanistan, Graveyard of Empires, a squad battles game from Flying Pig Games. This is a tactical CDG.
Yes. Multi-use cards.
Yeah.
Yep. Not traditional CDG.
More like Combat Commander style CDG rather than Empire of the Sun CDG. We played 65, many years ago. Really, really good. This one I'm also looking forward to. It's also very good.
I really liked it. Yeah, it was fun.
So this is, and this has a solo module.
Alone in the Desert, I think it's called.
The solo mod for 65 was excellent. I presume that it is very similar and equally as good. Has its own set of unique scenarios and its own kind of AI deck that works really well. Very clean. So looking forward to getting that done.
Scratch that. I don't believe it's Alone in the Desert. I believe it's Alone in the Mountains.
Sure.
If I remember correctly. So the other game that we're going to play is Louisburg 1758 from Worthington Publishing.
Yes.
So this is a block war game, really the siege of the bastion at Louisburg. Everything else I think is kind of ancillary to it, although it's important.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah, it's getting to the battle, hanging on, pummeling the fortress until ultimately they either surrender or you break yourselves against its walls.
Or you break the naval block, the French Navy, and do it that way.
Right. So anyway, interesting, unique looking game. We're going to play it this month. We've already played it.
Videos of both of these will come up on the channel at some point, which we have already made.
Yes.
Oh, also, today's February. What are you playing today?
Oh, that's a good point. So I am finally following in your footsteps. I am playing Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit number 4 Pacific Theater of Operations with our friend Mike Heckman from St. Louis. He's coming over. You are unavailable tonight. I am hosting him, and we're going to break that out, and I'm going to play some good old-fashioned meat and potatoes ASL.
ASL SK.
And
we'll
I'm
have both played it
very
at that point.
excited to try it. I'm going to try to do a good amount of pictures. I'm going to try to make sure I take a good amount of notes, because I really, truly want to do something on the blog, and I probably will do a video similar to what you did.
You should definitely do a video.
And then maybe we can do a comparison video where we talk about our individual experiences with the different forms of the ASLs.
Yeah, and even, the difference between the boxes, what they offer, and our experience. Yeah, I think that would be interesting.
You're right. I will be doing that.
That is February.
I will be doing that.
I thought about that just while we were
Yeah.
talking about this.
And I also
it will be a slow month, though.
Yes. I also will be playing these two solitaire games. Iwo Jima 1945 from Worthington Publishing. I've played this, very much enjoyed it. It will kick your ass, I'm just going to be honest.
Taro was the same, though.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you're just going to get destroyed. You're going to get lucky occasionally, but this one's Okinawa, the last battle of World War II from Best with One Games. This is a new company that I've discovered on GameFound. These games are in VHS cassettes, excellent components. They're all solitaire. They're not all historical, but they're fun, unique, interesting, and they're well done. And it was like $25. So I've backed 2 or 3 of theirs. I've played 2 of them. I've got others.
That's pretty cool artwork, too.
Oh, it's actually a very cool thematic. It feels comic book-esque. If you look at it, kind of like Sergeant Rock. But anyway, I'm going to play both those. I've played both of them. And we'll hopefully do more content in the future. So I think
Have you played something else by Best with One?
I did. I played
Rome?
Fate of an Empire.
That's what it was.
Very much more a Eurocentric... So anyway, a Eurocentric kind of... There's combat, there's invasions, there's economics and politics in that one. But it was also very good.
But this one's more of a fighting game.
It's a combat game. Okay. Yep. So that's February.
I think that is everything that will be played in February. And I know that doesn't sound like much, because it is, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. And I think that's also kind of par for the course for Kickstarters. We don't think we had anything going on.
No.
So we'll happily skip through that.
If you're interested, go on our blog. You'll have Wargame Watch for January and February. March will be coming up on Monday, or whenever you're watching this. But you can see what's up on Kickstarter.
Yeah, we had more. We got more stuff in February.
Yep.
And
well, let's talk about the couple of games that you.
Oh,
purchased.
Sure. Yeah, I've got
and that we received from Lock and Load Publishing.
So
and then I'll bring my.
We got a few
back.
different new acquisitions that we're very excited for.
Did we need these games?
Yes.
Okay, we did. Okay, are you sure?
Without question,
all
on
right.
my part.
Okay, I don't know that I needed this, but I really wanted it.
So
that's why I got it.
Lock and Load have had kind of a flurry of new publications recently. We have Point Blank Winter Victory, which is their sequel to Point Blank V.
I don't think it's the sequel. I think it's really an expansion.
Yes,
because I'm not sure it's standalone or if you actually need. I feel like it might be standalone.
No, it's not standalone.
It says require Point Blank. Yep.
So Point Blank, and think about Point Blank as like the grandchild of something like Upfront. I know they don't like saying that. It's very different, but it's conceptually it's one of those card war games on a grid. Grid, and the way you do it.
I would agree with that 100%. This is a little more meaty than that.
I think it's much more meaty.
This is more akin to a literal tactical combat war game like ASL, Combat Commander.
Well, you have all
that kind of thing,
and you have all of the, not all of it, but you have a lot of the combat concepts.
Yep.
From Lock and Load Tactical in this.
Put into this.
With all the different
spotting
movement types, ranges, spotting, hard targets, soft targets, different fire types. But in this game, you have like an infantry squad, and they are holding a satchel charge, and they're riding in a Hanomag. Like, this is what you're going to drive jump out, run, use the satchel charge card, and then they're going to start using rifle fire. This is the level at which you're playing as well. So there's so much stuff in here, but you're moving into this space. Ooh, what's the terrain? Draw from the terrain deck. Oh, not great.
Yeah, it doesn't help me, or it actually hinders me.
So you get some of that beautiful stuff that you've seen in up front in this as well. So
great game.
V's for victory, the win to victory. Apologies.
So this is literally Battle of the Bulge.
This is the Bulge Ardennes expansion.
And I think this is literally now fulfilling. I think we got it a couple of weeks early.
Yeah.
But if you've backed this on Kickstarter or GameFound, whatever they did, it should be fulfilling shortly. And it is high quality, just like the other games that they do. I very much look forward to playing this. This is a 2025 though, so we'll get this by the end of the year.
Yeah, and
sometime hopefully.
And but they've been releasing a ton of games recently, so there's a lot to look at and look forward to from Lock and Load right now as well.
But you also bought some.
Yes, I also have completed my collection of Great Campaigns of the American Civil War games. And I'm going to explain what that means. So you own
every single one that is out?
I own all of the ones that I wish to own.
Okay.
So I own all of the MMP ones, and then I also own one of the old, I think it's Avalon Hill or Victory Games, I can't remember.
Okay.
I own Stonewall's Last Battle, because all of the other old ones have been redone in these new ones. Stonewall's Last Battle is the only one that hasn't. So I own all of the ones, but I own the updates. So I got Battle Above the Clouds, which is
a very rare one, right? It's very hard. It's totally out of print.
But both of these are.
Well, okay.
But
you got some sucker that you suckered out of it.
And and by sucker, I mean the Mark Herman.
Oh, okay.
Who he reached out to me.
Oh, nice.
And was like, hey man,
I've got these.
I heard you're looking for these. I'm liquidating my collection.
Nice.
And I'm like, and he gave me a much more reasonable price than you can find online.
What a guy.
So
what a guy.
I appreciate that. He made off well.
Sure.
And
good for him.
Yeah. So
he's helped us all so much.
But like, I paid for both of these less than you would pay for just this.
Okay, that's good.
Night. So
good. And I know you were excited although you never told me it was Mark Herman. I'm not sure why you didn't.
Well, I didn't want to just like blow him up if he didn't.
I think that's pretty cool. Now you have them all. We have played 3 of these? 2 of them. I've played 2. You've played 3.
Yes.
So we'll eventually one day get around to other ones.
Yes. But like, now the collection is complete, and I feel very good about that. I will get to these eventually, but like...
He'll now move to the next collection.
Yes.
How about those Napoleon's Eagles games from Hexasale?
I already have 3 of them.
Well, but there's like 10 of them.
I only have to get a few more. But this is Chickamauga, Chattanooga. This is obviously Rose of Gettysburg, but I really wanted this because this has Antietam in it. Okay. And I thought that, I was reading about that in Shelby Foote, and I'm like, that would be such an interesting campaign in this system, I think. So,
I love the art on these. Now, I don't believe these are commissioned art by them. They're just...
No, they're historical paintings.
Yeah, these are so good. They're just so good. And I love the look and the feel and the... I mean, that's a little different, though.
Yeah,
Why do you do that?
So this is the only one. They got a lot of blowback for it, which is why they went back to this.
I just don't know why
So they put like the flags on the sides for both sides, and I don't know if you remember what they look like. They changed the look of the counters.
Oh, those look very different.
All the same info, but they changed the look.
Oh,
and, people hate
ballistic,
it. And so they went back to it immediately.
Got it.
So
but I'm glad you got these.
But
excellent.
I'm excited for this. Now I can stop spending money, and I've got a great nice turquoise shelf, and I'm very excited to eventually kind of get round to those.
It's right here to my left.
Because those come back into print rarely, if ever, and so.
Why do you think that is?
It's because.
Is it just a time and resources thing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's because...
ASL just makes so much money for them, they don't have to reprint anything?
No. I think GCACW is only popular with a really hardcore set of players. And the insane aftermarket demand for them is because those people will pay for them, but there's not actually that many people.
Yeah.
So when they do reprint them, I think there was one of the games they reprinted, and they were having a real hard time shifting them. They really they took a big hit on it, and so they're like, okay, well, we don't do it anymore because the hype was overblown of how many people actually wanted a reprint.
Then they overprinted it. And
I believe that's what I had heard. I don't know how true that is. That's what I'd heard. So.
Well, what I would say, and you're right, GCACW there's probably a little niche
it's definitely
corner
niche.
of the niche hobby that we reside in. But, they do like a SCS 2 for any number of games. Like we have Ardennes 2.
Yep.
And that was a great game.
It's very good.
So good. Glad that we got a second edition of it and we could acquire it and play it. But I think they've done that, and those have done really, really well. But that's more broad appeal.
Yeah.
GCACW probably is a little more
I think
niche
that's a much
niche.
narrower market. But, it's at a point now where, hey, I've got them all, that's great for me. But what I would say is if you like that system or you're interested in it, just buy them as they come out.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, the aftermarket prices are nuts unless you're both extremely patient and ask very nicely.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might wait a long time, but patience will pay off.
Yeah.
So I think that's all the stuff, like the stuff.
Yeah.
So let's have a quick word.
Well, can we? Yes, from our sponsor.
From our sponsor, Noble Knight Games.
Here at Noble Knight Games, we've been carefully growing the world's largest selection of board games, role-playing games and dice, war games, miniatures and paints, card games, and more. Going on 25 years now. Our rustic castle contains more game and hobby goodness than you can shake a stick at. Complete with careful packaging and the finest customer service the land can provide. You can buy, sell, trade from anywhere in the world, just like nature intended. Noble Knight Games.
So thanks to Noble Knight Games for sponsoring this channel, for keeping the lights on here, and for taking our money when we buy new war games.
And your money, right?
And I'm like on there. They sell books, they sell scale models, they sell miniatures,
dice,
they sell war games, regular
paints,
games, dice, and they have everything under the sun on there.
We need to go back up there. Maybe
we do. I think
end
we
of
do.
this year or maybe next year sometime.
Whilst I'm talking about buying a new shelf for games, I'll have a ton of stuff that we can offload so that I can refill my shelves.
Yeah, right.
I definitely agree that that's probably what's on the cards this year.
Yeah, agreed.
Because we didn't do it last year.
We didn't.
And
we
now
didn't do
I'm
it in
starting to drown again.
Yep.
So.
Well, and it's a blast. We had a great time. It was fun.
And it's a pilgrimage.
Yep, it is.
Yes.
We had a very good trip.
You could spend literally days or weeks lost in the back of those warehouses, Indiana Jones style.
Right.
Guys.
I would be okay getting lost back there.
Yeah, just give me
just give me a little food.
A lamp and a lunchbox and a sleeping bag.
Maybe a big bottle of
see
water.
You later.
Yeah. Pick me up in 3 days.
Anyway, you were saying?
I wanted... So we have become a little bit addicted to Call of Duty. Did we talk about this in one of our videos recently?
You may have done.
Okay. But we got PlayStations and we bought Call of Duty and we've been playing. And it's a blast. I love playing with you. I love... It's fun. We're like yelling and screaming at the TV, and we've got our own chat channel, so nobody can hear us.
Thank goodness.
We've got teammates that are like, hey, why aren't you doing this? And we're not even listening.
And it's more like, hey, you guys, why aren't you doing this?
Yeah, right. But I don't know. I very much enjoy that, and I've enjoyed the past couple of months playing that. It has affected a little bit our game playing. Not really, but a little bit.
No.
And my output, I think, on the blog and other things as well.
Yeah.
But I wanted to express that because I'm trying to get it off my chest.
February might look like a dry month looking forwards, but in the next video we'll explain why, and that is a small component of it. I think there's a lot of other things going on.
Yeah. So anyway.
On to a slightly much more tragic and serious topic, unfortunately. So today we wanted to kind of do just like not an ode to Rodger McGowan necessarily, but like just to like talk about him and his legacy within the wargaming space.
I never met Rodger.
No,
we never had the pleasure of meeting him, but I know I had a lot of correspondence with him through email about games they had coming up. We did some designer interviews for some of those games. We've played many of their games when they drop C3I magazine every year. he was always such a nice guy to us. I always kind of thought his responses to Twitter were just classic.
Oh.
They were nonchalant. They were nothing deep, but it was always like, yeah, this is a great game that we enjoyed working on. Thanks, like Rodger. You know, he signed his Twitter. And I just thought to myself, that's the way my father would have communicated on Twitter. And because of that, I felt a little bit of a connection and kinship there with him, and very much appreciated our limited and short association with him.
Yeah, and along those lines, I think one of my favorite things about Rodger was that he loved to see you playing his old games.
Yeah.
And so I remember, like, anytime I play something like Pursuit of Glory, and that's not even that old.
Yeah.
But, like, playing his old games, he would always, I don't know if he had alerts on or what, but he would always respond. Because they post a picture of me playing Pursuit of Glory, and he would post, like, you know, the front cover and, like, the design artwork of it.
Sometimes, like, the designer holding the box, like,
and he's like,
organic pictures.
And he'd be like, this was such a great memory, and it's so great to see you still playing this old game that I worked on. Thanks, Rodger.
Yeah,
and
things like that.
It was those things, like, without fail. If we were playing an old game that he had worked on, he would always find it. He had a spider sense for it.
Yep.
And he'd always respond with a picture of him, like, at his easel doing the artwork of it. Or, like, the original kind of, not CAD drawings, but, like, the original vector-style drawings. That's not what it is, but that he had. And I thought it was such a great grounding window into, like, the history of the hobby and how, like, I'm playing this game. Even, like, the 11th edition of Paths of Glory that we're at. That game's been around for so long. It hasn't even been around that long.
Yeah.
But, like, it's gone through so many iterations, and, like, he did that 20 years ago.
Where's your Twilight Struggle?
Twilight Struggle's all the way down there.
Yeah.
And
I wanted to get that out when we talk about the games we like.
And I just thought that it was such a fun thing, and, like, there was part of me where it was like, I'm playing this game and I'm gonna post, and I know Roger's gonna see it, and so I'm like, what's the most, like, obscure game in my collection that I can get him to respond onto? And he always would, so I'm gonna miss that.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but in 2015, 2016, when we first started playing games, we had a Twitter account, we were, like, sharing pictures of our games. And I will never forget, we were playing Empire of the Sun for the first time. It was a Saturday. I think we played like 5 or 6 hours. And I posted some pictures. And all of a sudden it came back where he would take the picture and like you said, he put it in a framework. And there were, like, designer pictures with Mark Herman and maybe another picture or two. And I saved that picture. It's still on my, like, cloud. And I've used that in several posts over the years when we talk about, like, the start of the blog and what we do. But I remember how cool that was. I was like, oh, what a great guy that he's doing this. Little did I know at the time that he was, and I knew he was the artist, but I didn't really know if that makes sense. But he also was part of GMT, and I think he worked kind of as a managing partner at times and in seasons, and him, Mark Semenich, I mean, he was really a backbone for that company and its success. Now, he broke off and did his own RBM studio with his art, or actually that was, I think, before that, but I'm confused. I'll shut up.
That's all in the book, which we'll talk about soon.
But it's just so cool to see, I think, the lives that he's touched, the iconic cover art that he has made that we still to this day immediately recognize.
Yes.
You know, when I thought about him passing and everybody was, I immediately thought of Twilight Struggle. That's the game that, he didn't have anything to do with the game itself, but the art. I'm not saying it's my most favorite piece of art, but I think the symbolism, and we'll talk about it, but the symbolism and what all is in there is just so very cool.
Yeah.
And well done.
Yeah, my first thought went to the C3I magazine.
Yep.
Because that thing's been around now over
Forever.
40 years, I think. I think they're in the 40s.
Grab your...
I have a few. I just grabbed a kind of...
And I've got 8 or 10 at home. I just didn't
So this
bring
one
them all.
is 36. I think they're on 38. I think 38.
Yes.
Because they're 38
I believe
parallel
so,
this
yep.
year. So close to 40, one a year, because we're 40 years of this C3I magazine.
Do you remember playing this game? We played this when you lived at John and Dietrich's house for those couple of months.
No,
that was Wakefield.
Yes,
the Battle
I
of
have
Wakefield.
played. I tried to play ISI. I had
Okay.
it set up and was piddling around with it, but I got too busy.
Got it. Then we played Gettysburg with Mark.
Yes.
At WBC.
So C3I magazine, if you don't know, is a magazine. It's a annual. It comes out once a year, and Rodger puts it all together. It typically has a ton of like great interviews, history pieces, strategy articles, and it invariably has at least one full game with
Yep.
it. So this one had Plan Orange, which is a spin-off of Empire of the Sun.
Desert Victory.
Desert Victory. This one had 2 games.
Yep.
This one had ISI, and it had, maybe that was just ISI.
Several of them had 2
So,
games.
yeah, especially
like the
some-
Teutoburg,
Yeah.
Firebase Vietnam, and Disaster at
Yes.
Teutoburg.
And then it would also have like micro expansions for a bunch of your games.
Or variants,
Or-
or
yes,
new
scenarios.
rules,
There was almost
or new play aids.
always a GBOH scenario
Yeah.
for one of the titles in there.
Yep.
Or it would have the errata counters for that year's GMT games.
Or even new counters that are adding to the game with those variants. I have read almost every single one of my C3Is cover to cover. I always enjoy the articles. And it's just a high quality publication. This is a magazine that you're going to buy and it's going to sit on your shelf. And I even have the little collector boxes. Like I have several of those.
I have a couple of those.
But these are quintessential wargaming magazines. I think they're really the gold star
Yeah.
of all the magazines that we have played and read and looked at. Definitely the RBM is or C3I is the gold star.
Yeah, and because this is, I think, and I said my mind went to C3I when I heard of his passing, and it's because this is like all him.
Yeah.
And he would probably say, no, the contents are from all these other authors and
Yep.
stuff, but he's the one who's herding the cats, rallying them all together, approving the designs. He does
Yep.
all the
The
layout stuff.
layouts.
He's doing the artworks on it as well.
Yep.
And it's such a, like, when this shows up every year, it's genuinely one of my favorite wargaming days of the year. Because I'm like, ooh, what did I get? Because there's so much stuff packed into these. And so we don't know, but I hope that someone else picks up the torch.
I hope so. I know his son was involved.
You feel like we kind of have to.
Yeah, I hope.
Because if this goes away, I'll be devastated, honestly. But
Well, and I do believe, this one's 30?
this is 36.
So I think 38 is actually on pre-order.
Yes.
And I think the plan was to release that early this year, but I think that's been set back probably. But look forward to that one. I know it has quite a few things in it, but yeah, my first thought of Rodger is always C3I. Always.
They're so and it's because it's a product. Now, Rodger is a graphic designer. He's an artist, right?
Yep.
I think that's
what he's mainly known
That's
for.
how he cut his teeth. So we'll talk about a few different kind of his covers and where we all got that from. But to start with, I don't want to say coincidentally, but it kind of worked out that way.
Right.
So just last year, they came up with The Art of Rodger B. McGowan. And it's literally this huge coffee table book. And it goes through, and he signed it very personalized, which is very nice and much more meaningful.
Yeah.
But this is almost 200 pages, hardback of,
Very nice.
from the super earliest days back in like the 70s, all the way,
The 1970s. Oh my gosh.
all the way until like the recent stuff.
Yeah.
And it's got everything. It's got all of his artworks in it. All of these great,
Covers.
very memorable covers, but it's got the histories of these, and it has the details of these things. And
Well, and more than that, it even has a little bit of his history at the beginning.
yeah, it's like a biography,
which is
almost.
fascinating. I read, he come from humble beginnings and very interesting.
And I just think this is like the perfect kind of piece to honor his legacy, an art book. that contains all of his like hobby-based historical artwork that we love.
Yep.
And he has a very definitive style. When you see a Rodger McGowan cover, you know it's a Rodger McGowan cover.
Yep.
And it inspired a lot of the artwork in the industry over the course of the years, especially from the early days. A lot of that same style or variants of that style.
Yeah.
But you just know a Rodger cover when you see one.
Yeah.
And so I do hope...
They're really unmistakable.
Yeah.
Frankly.
And so if you are looking for something, I think this comes with even a higher recommendations. Because before, it was a really great coffee table book, and it was really interesting and cool. And now it's like, it's almost, it's like that extra level a bit more meaningful. So I think you could do a lot worse than getting this, because this is also printed by RBM Studios. So it is also going to directly support his family, basically.
Well, I think it's also kind of sad with the Palisade. I think I'm saying it right. I can't remember. There's a couple, but the Palisade fires in Southern California over the past couple of months, I know his home was destroyed. I know his business was destroyed. I know that there was like a Kickstarter campaign that raised $50,000 or $60,000. I know we donated just a little bit, but to see the community come together in support of someone like that was very touching to me. It was like without question, people were going to donate.
Oh, I mean, think about everything that he has given over the course of his life
to pay back to a little bit of money.
To our little hobby, right? That we do for fun to enjoy ourselves in our lives. Yeah. And he committed so much time and effort to that. And like you said, it was a no-brainer to kind of help out. And unfortunately, here we are, which is, I think it's quite tragic. But
well, I think it's interesting in life, and I talk a lot about this with my wife, because we have moved around in my profession, and I always ask her, are there going to be people that show up to my funeral? Now, that's a little dark. Right?
You're not the only one who's thought that, though.
But I
think we all have.
I consider those things because I know my family you'll show up if you're still alive, and
I've died of kidney stones.
Yeah, please don't. But my children will be there, and their children, but I think the ultimate goal of everyone is to create some form of a legacy that will continue. Now,
there was hopefully a positive impact on lots of people. Right?
Most of us will never really have a large impact. I know I won't. I think of historical leaders like Washington and Patton and, these...
I'm not getting a state
Churchill.
Funeral.
No, but I'm hoping, my only hope really is to leave the earth better than I found it, and to have had people say, you know what, I knew that guy and he was a real human being. I think that's really all I care.
I think that's all that anyone wants,
Yeah.
I think.
But for Rodger, to have left this legacy of all of these covers and this art, and how many times have people said to us on videos, oh, I remember getting my first copy of Anzio and looking at that painting, or Iron Bottom Sound, and looking at that painting on the cover and thinking, I love wargaming now. And I think that's absolutely true. That led to a lot of people loving wargaming, looking at that art.
Well, even, Squad Leader.
Right there. One of the most famous, you've got your ASL binder there.
Yeah, funny, I don't actually have Squad Leader, but I've got ASL, which they are still
that logo,
using that same that still artwork, and that style pervades through a lot of that still.
Well, and I think when I think of Rodger, I think the first cover that comes to my mind is Up Front. So you've got the German SS guy.
That's not Up Front. Oh, Up Front. Yeah, sorry, I was thinking of a different game. Yes.
Yeah. Because I've played that with my father-in-law dozens and dozens of times. You have as well. But that is one that I think of immediately when I think of Rodger. That's a very iconic painting. It's very well done. I'm not sure I'm totally in support of the SS guy on front, but I understand, right? It was a reality, a historical reality. But I also think of covers like, well, and let's just go into the cover discussion. I think we could go on and on.
Yeah, we could wax very lyrical for a very long time.
But another one that I always think of is Twilight Struggle. You introduced me to Twilight Struggle in like 2014, and we played it, and I think I said this to you, boy, these are the ugliest games I've ever played. And I don't understand why they're number one on Board Game Geek. And then we played it, and I was like, okay, I still feel that way, but there's something here. And then we played again, and again, and again. And I'm like, oh, this game's amazing. But when I look at this art, to me, this is very evocative of that time, right? The Cold War from 1945 to 1989. All of the movies that we have seen that have the spies, that's right here, right? You've got, this is the Brandenburg Gate, right? Right there on the front. You've got the wall. I love the clouds, the map of Europe. That's just such a nice little touch. I love the color comparison. But that's a Rodger McGowan like treasure right there. I don't ever want to see this go away.
Well, and
from the cover, frankly.
Like a very different style that I have come to enjoy is these ones. So I've got Paths of Glory, Pursuit of Glory, and even Empire of the Sun, where it's like, here's a very striking image.
Well, and here's Ardennes 44.
But these ones have all of the names of the major battles listed.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
And I think that is such a cool thing that he kind of did for these.
Sure.
Because I think...
Yeah, it is very cool.
You could have had, a full art piece. That's great. Like, Ardennes is wonderful for that. But you also get some information on here. Mm-hmm. And some of that stuff is like battles that you may not have heard of if you're playing tactical games, because they're not, but on a big grand strategic game like this, you're seeing those things. Yeah. So then you pay attention to it more in the game, and the front cover helps you to like understand the battle a little bit better. And you get that on these. I think that's like, those are just really neat little touches where he's actually helping you with the game as well as having a really cool cover. This is an iconic picture of Lawrence of Arabia. But the way that he colorizes it and processes it.
Is this called rotoscoping?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think...
I was trying to think of the word, but
I think the picture of him is similar with this, but what this is called is something different, but I can't remember.
Maybe someone that knows.
But that's his very distinctive style.
Agreed.
And he'll put like, very striking, very saturated colors into it that'll tell a story. And I don't know. I really like. I think I like this style where it just has lots of the different battles in there. Just something a little bit different.
Well, and to kind of follow that up, there's other. In my opinion, there's iconic of a different type, right? So I think of the 40X series games that we have played.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I have any more
Normandy, Stalingrad 42, Ardennes 44. I love this cover. I don't know what it is about it, right? Part of it is I love that they're smoking. I just think that's amazing because you would not have seen a GI in the trenches of the Ardennes, or in their foxholes in the Ardennes, not smoking. And in fact, to me, this cover and the style is so iconic, I was able to guess this one correctly in our wives describing the covers.
Because didn't she say man with a cigarette and you're like, that's
No, she didn't say that. I asked, is there a man with a cigarette? She said yes. And I was like, Ardennes 44. And it's, then you've got stuff like this, which is kind of a different style, but it just works.
But it's the coloring and I don't know the art name.
Right, I wish I knew the terminology.
They do similar style, but the actual layout and the composition totally different.
Yes.
But you can tell, but if you put these both side by side, to me, same artist. Yeah. It's a very, very iconic style.
And then you've got, I think of these where it's like an action shot, Barbarossa Army Group Center, and then this is Ukraine 43. I just love I think he had a really good eye for color and color matches, but also I think the little parts on these covers, that he throws in, like the planes in the sky, or, on this one, the smoke rising. I mean, those kind of things are evocative of the action that happened in these games, and I just think he did a really good job of doing that.
Yeah.
These are just two that I grabbed off my shelf.
Yeah, some other kind of classic things when I think of his Combat Commander.
Oh, yeah.
Pick any one of them.
Yeah.
For the People's a very classic cover, although they've got a new one.
They do.
That
And
has
it's
a new
beautiful
cover.
as well. It's just a completely different
Very
style.
different style. But this is the one that, like, I think most of us
And once
love
again,
and
they
know.
have the Emancipation Proclamation probably written there on the front.
Yeah,
I
think
I
that's
don't have
what
my
that is.
glasses, but
But like, he has this extremely distinctive style that has permeated wargaming for such a long time. Because I think he'd started, if you read the book, at a few different companies before kind
Yeah.
of launching on his own. And when you make it big with Squad Leader, and that's the front cover, it's almost inevitable that people are going to take the concept of what that cover is
and
then
mimic it.
yeah, and just they're going to deviate from that, but that's
Yeah.
still the base.
Yep.
Right, and you can see that I think even in a lot of wargaming today, even if
Yeah.
stuff he's not doing right, it's either
Yeah.
like it's either a historical painting, which is fine, or it's some kind of artwork, and you can almost always see Rodger's kind of inspiration in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost always. I even think, okay, so I think about something like this.
Yeah.
These are two historical pictures, but the way that it's composed and how it's overlaid, not dissimilar from something like Ardennes 44,
Right.
right? You can see elements of his work in so much of the rest of the field, which I think is really, really neat.
Well, and I also like you had Labyrinth there. You know, that modern take that's very different, I think, than many of his other covers. I think it's clean, it's evocative, it's attractive. I just very much like it.
And you know exactly what
You know
it is.
exactly what it is. Yep.
I think that's what I like about this and Twilight Struggle is he designed these two covers, and it's like, that's the game.
Yep.
It does not hide to you what it is.
Yep.
And I think the last thing that I've got over here that I think's some real classic stuff.
Sure.
Is
I
the-
have this one hanging on my wall.
Is the
I like it that
GBOH
much.
series. Now I've got a bunch of them back here. I got to get them all out, but the GBOH series has been around for so long. This is Mark Herman and Richard Berg did these, and they all have these wonderful. Oh, I gotta get the other one. These wonderful front covers, and I wanted to get out this one.
Mm-hmm.
I got to get out the Horse Times cover
Horse Times, yeah.
for Kelly, because he made that joke, right? We don't have the Horse Times joke if it's not for Roger McGowan's
Sure.
cover of Samurai.
Yeah.
So I want to just kind of give a shout out there. But I think these front covers, again, it's his very unique, very recognizable style. And a game like SPQR that's gone through how many editions and been around for, I think, gosh, nearly 25 years now. And we're still playing it.
Yep.
We're still looking at the same artwork, and it's still got Rodger's legacy built into it, and probably always will do. I don't think that's ever going to go away.
Yeah.
I really, really love that aspect of it as well.
The other one that I very much enjoy of his is Ran.
Yes.
It's also a kind of a samurai game. I just love that one.
This is a great cover.
I mean, it's the sun in the background, the orange color, the silhouette. That is a classic.
This is like
cover.
This is like
Yeah, it's really good.
very, very cool.
Now that I've said that, I believe that's him, right?
yeah.
I just want to make sure. Things like this, or even Empire of the Sun, these are my favorites. You know,
Yeah,
Up Front, Ran, SPQR, Empire of the Sun, Twilight Struggle. If I had 4 posters lined up on my wall, those would be the 4 that I would put up.
And whilst I know that most of you guys have a lot of these games, you can go out and buy them all to have the covers, or you can just pick this up, because it I don't know if it has every single one of his covers in, because I think that
It has a lot of them, though.
but it has all of the famous ones in it.
Yeah.
Like, it's got so much stuff in here, and he goes through so much of it, and I think this is a really, really cool artifact to memorialize a lot of his
So
work.
this is one of my favorite as well, and we've never played this. And this,
World in Flames?
nope.
Oh.
It is Shoestring, but the picture used right there.
Oh, yeah, that's
Operation
great.
Shoestring. That's a game from GMT, like in I think it was like the 90s.
Probably.
I have seen that picture on a couple of other games, and I love it. Never played it, but I very much enjoy that cover. This is also a really good cover, and those are
Down
good.
in Flames.
Anyway, I think I could go on and on. Fire in the Lake is also amazing.
Fire in the Lake is a classic. We just picked up the Napoleonic Wars.
did.
We're going to play that this summer. So
We
that's,
are at WBC. I'm so excited.
That's again. This is the classic. Here I Stand. Right. He did that.
This is also a very good cover. That's his game with Dana Lombardi. Or Dana Lombardi designed the game, and he did the art.
Yeah.
Sword of Rome. I have that one.
Right.
I love it.
But like,
there's so many.
Every single one of these, you flip the page, and like, oh yeah, that one.
Yeah. We could keep going.
You get the
Love Combat Commander Europe
and Commands and Colors.
Yep.
Right. Like. So much of his work is so immediately recognizable and brings back those fond memories. And if alone that's the legacy that you leave, you've done a wonderful job and made an impression in a hobby that's not going anywhere.
He has touched thousands and thousands and thousands of people from their teens when they started all the way now through us as I become gray and you're now middle-aged. But one final comment I want to have about Rodger. I reached out to him one time a couple of years ago when we were going to WBC. Or no, I'm sorry, Buckeye Game Fest.
Oh, yep.
And we were going to teach some coin series for the first time. I want to say it was like 3 years ago. But I reached out to him and I said, hey, Rodger, it would be really great if you could donate some paraphernalia and maybe a couple of posters. And he did without question. In fact, he sent too much.
He sent so much stuff that everyone got something.
Yeah, that we gave, and I will never forget that. And I think after the fact, I sent him all the pictures of the people who got him and their beautiful smiles. And I am sure that he did it for that reason, right? He didn't do it for hoping to sell more games or more covers, or he did it for the enjoyment of those that saw, viewed, played with his art and his graphics. And I was very touched by that. GMT Games also is very generous in that way, but that was something with Rodger that I'll remember from that little interaction with him. One other comment I want to have about him, and then I'm done. I had a bit of a disagreement with him one time. I was commenting about, and everybody hates it, the cover for Nevsky. I like it. Why do I like it? It's not the best cover in the world, but it's unique.
They tried something new.
It's interesting. It's different. And I think I posted that either on Facebook or on Twitter. And I did not do it thinking I was denigrating what he had done, right? He posed a response back to me, and it was just a question. And I thought it was a really good question. He made the comment, Grant, do we need a new piece of art for every single game, or can we recycle stuff in a unique and different way? And I thought to myself, no, we don't need a new piece of art for every single game, but I liked it, right? And I remember feeling bad about that, for making that comment and drawing his attention. But I thought it led to an interesting kind of, we respond a couple times back and forth, and I think at the end agreed to disagree, because I still do enjoy cutting edge, new stuff. I want to see some new stuff. I love the classics, and I think you can continue using some of the classic, but I do like to see occasionally someone go out on a limb and try something. But I wanted to bring that up because I believe that Rodger McGowan has encouraged that. People want to make an iconic cover because of a guy like Rodger McGowan. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's like they are trying in their way to develop their own style and have it have as much impact as Rodger's style had. So that's my final comment on that.
Yeah, and I think, as time marches on, we're going to move into a post-Rodger McGowan wargaming era. But that's also never going to be the case, because his influence will never leave the hobby, because it's already so there and so ingrained that even 2, 3, 4 generations from now, the wargaming artwork that they'll be creating will still be tied through the art history and the canon history of his artwork, and he was one of the first guys.
Yeah.
And he was so prolific and so iconic that if you study regular art history, even like the weird modern art that they're making now has its ties to like the Renaissance and like ancient stuff.
Yeah.
It might all be reactionary, but it's still there. And I think his influence will probably never leave this hobby. And I think that's really neat.
Well, and nor should it ever leave.
No.
Right? I mean, he's one of those pioneering forces that he should always be included in some way, shape, or form. And I think he will, through his influence, through his example, through his past work that people will view to generate ideas and inspiration.
How long before we get like a retro vintage cover that looks back to one of his iconic ones that's a new take on it, that's like very explicitly that and not just inspired by?
Well, I do feel like the cover for The Other Side of the Hill from Knack Wargames felt very Rodger McGowan-like. It was very basic, but it looked good for what it was. So I think you can see, now that was done before he passed, but it's good to see others kind of mimicking that style in some ways.
Yeah, and just seeing all the new stuff and how that's either inspired by or a reaction to his body of work will be really fun to see going forwards. But I think he'll be greatly missed in the hobby.
100%.
And what I would love to see is your anecdotes and your stories about Rodger in the comments.
Yep.
Because he, you know, he's been around the hobby for a long time, and a lot of people have interacted with him.
Yeah.
And he was a great character, so what are your stories? But I want to hear all about them. I want to read all those, because I think that's one of the greatest ways to enjoy his memory, is to share those great stories.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back very soon with a TV for next month. And I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.